All right, thank you everyone for being here. Are we ready? We good? We got everyone? All right, well, good morning. I'm Mayor Brandon Whipple. I want to thank you all for being at Chester Lewis Park this morning. As you can see, we're ready to start the next phase of an exciting park revitalization here, and we want to make sure that we ask the community for your support and your help in providing what that vision is going to be. Chester Lewis Reflection Park in downtown Wichita is a key area for our city's growth. More importantly, it also represents a key area of the civil rights movement. Chester Lewis was born in Hutchinson in 1929 and was the president of the Wichita chapter NAACP. He worked tirelessly to desegregate restaurants, swimming pools, aircraft companies, local government agencies, and more. Work to revitalize his namesake park is underway, and we want to make sure that the community has their input. In the coming days, the building immediately adjacent to the east boundary of the park will be demolished, and a major portion of that site will be added to the park to increase the park size. We've launched a survey to gather your input and ensure that this space reflects the community's values while honoring the rich civil rights history of Chester Lewis in Wichita. And here to talk more about this is Councilmember Brandon Johnson. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor. This is exciting. We have been working to continue to develop downtown, and now we have an opportunity with the new DO school and Culinary and Hospitality College to bring hundreds of new students and faculty and administration to our continually growing downtown. And with that, we'll see some additional development as well. One of the great opportunities of this new development is the revitalization of the Chester Lewis Reflection Park. It's a park that I think we could do more justice to Chester Lewis and his memory with the revitalizations. That's why I'm happy to have his family involved with potential revitalizations and expansion of this park because it's going to be key to downtown. And one additional thing I'd like to add is, as we saw recent protests downtown, what better impact could it have been to have a final Chester Lewis Reflection Park with the real memory and history of him here for those young people to reflect upon and be inspired by. So I'm looking forward to seeing that change here. Right now, the park is underutilized. We're going to change that not only through the aesthetics, but programming that will happen here, and especially having students who are, in their own way, going to get an education to change this world, seeing the memory and celebration of Chester Lewis. And again, we are working with the family of Chester Lewis, the local branch NAACP, and other partners to make sure that this is respectful to that. So I appreciate our Parks Department and reaching out intentionally to make sure that happens, as well as the developers. And as the mayor talked about, there is a survey available. You can find that survey on our Twitter, Facebook, and Nextdoor pages. And we're hoping to get robust input on the design of the park. And we have some other folks here to discuss more about that, and that would be Jeff Best with LK Architecture.
Good morning. Well, thank you for having me here. We are very excited to be involved with this very important project. If I kind of stutter a little bit, it's because I'm normally accompanied by a board with a design that I speak to instead of everybody's attention towards me. So what we started looking at with this project and looking around the city is we have a lot of parks that are named for prominent Wichitans from our history in name only. This is really an opportunity to integrate Chester R. Lewis's story throughout this space, which is very unique for Wichita. And I think will add a lot of texture and meaning and spirit to the overall space. Currently, we're seeking proposals from artist consultants to help craft that story with the stakeholder group, the designers, and the public, so we can do a very good job of integrating those elements throughout the park. We really anticipate you coming into this park and learning not only about Chester I. Lewis, but also maybe be aspiring to the legacy of Chester I. Lewis moving forward. As well, the artist consultant that will be coming on board that'll help with the story will also engage other artists in the communities to actually create the art. So we'll have another tie back to the community in that way. As mentioned before, this has been a pretty underutilized space through the years. We know that people activate spaces. So not only is it important to us to bring people in, but actually keep people here to activate the space. That may be from eating lunch at a food truck. It might be study groups with students. It could also mean speakers or musical events. Or like I oftentimes do, I like to go to parks and simply just people watch. Successful placemaking is really the result of many people's input in the process. This is why it's so important to have as many people as possible engaged in the survey and future events that we'll be putting out. In the end, we want to design an active and comfortable and safe place for everybody. And to do that well for the community, we need the community's input. Thank you.
I do want to just mention that speaking with some of the folks who are going to be heading up the medical school or the DO school, they mentioned that they will be utilizing some of the history of Chester Lewis in this park in their onboarding. So the students and the faculty who wind up teaching here know the historical significance of this park. So I just want to say I think that's great, and thank you for that. With that, I want to talk about a little, somewhat of a lighter note. We have the Most Spirited Wichitan, which contest coming up. So we're looking for people to provide input on public projects, an important way to shape our city and show love for Wichita. This week we've launched another way to show you Wichita love. We're looking for the Most Spirited Wichitan and Wichita's proudest pet to help us celebrate Wichita's 150th birthday. So please deck out in your best ICT attire. I know that we probably have Councilmember Fry who is willing to bring out his flag suit. So good luck topping that one. But if you don't have a flag suit, then make sure you put your pet in some Wichita flag swag and snap some pictures and send it to wichita.gov/ICT Spirit. A panel of 5 Wichita enthusiasts will judge the contest and pick the most spirited Wichitan, and it will be announced on July 30th. Winners receive a fabulous prize package, including a chance to light up the keeper. And with that, I will take questions.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
Wichita mask mandate or ordinance went into effect on Friday. Can you kind of talk about how many folks, I guess initially you were talking about, right now it's education period, at some point
Right.
there will be enforcement period. Where are we on that spectrum?
Okay, so the question, and I got to do better at this and make sure that I repeat the questions because not everyone can hear. The question is about the mask mandate that passed Wichita City Council last, I believe, Friday. As everyone has been following this knows, the governor put out her mandate, and because of the changes in the legislature, the county had the opportunity to not enforce the mandate and make it a recommendation. They exercised that right on Thursday. On Friday, the city council met an emergency meeting and in the boundaries of Wichita implemented a ordinance that is based off the governor's executive order that is designed to keep people safe and to ensure that we can slow the spread of the coronavirus. Now, the question was about enforcement. One of the things that we learned during the shutdown, which is what we're trying to avoid, because we all, I think, understand that having a mask on is a much lesser barrier than a whole economic shutdown. During the shutdown, we learned that education was enough of an enforcement. And what that looked like was our officers would go to a business that might be open or might be participating in risky COVID behavior by having folks gather inside, and would talk to those businesses about that. And in every case was successful. I think there was one where they might have gone out twice. So the goal is to never get to the point where we are fining anyone for not wearing a mask. And the way the ordinance is set up, it's like you pretty much have to try to get fined to actually have to pay that fine. And what I mean is we have reasonable accommodations in the ordinance that allows for those who just can't wear a mask for whatever legitimate reason, they just can't do it, you will have a way to opt out. The fine is only if you are convicted, which means if you are cited because you are someone who rejected the education, you rejected a free mask from the city, and you continue and you aren't have any medical conditions or any of the exceptions to wear a mask, then you still have a chance to have due process in our system. Even then, you will only pay the $25 fine for a first offense if you are found guilty. So I think that there is enough opportunity to have compliance where people can avoid the fine. However, we do have to have a mechanism of enforcement, as was discussed during the city council last week, because we cannot implement an ordinance without enforcement. And I want to give credit to Councilmember Johnson, who actually motioned to slash those prices in half as far as what a first, second, and third offense would be, to ensure that if someone was to go down the path of refusing to follow this simple health mandate, so we can get back to normal, then that person would be able to also afford the fine. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Go for it.
Looks like the city of Wichita kind of took a leadership role in the city making that an ordinance. And then we saw several other cities, Winfield, Salina, now Newton talking about it. What is your take on the city of Wichita, one of the largest cities here in Kansas, taking that first step?
So the question was about the city taking a leadership role by enacting the mask mandate under home, the question to have this in it, under our home rule powers, and how it has affected other cities that two of them at least, I think it's Winfield and Salina, have implemented their own mask ordinance, and I believe there's at least 3 others that I know of as of yesterday who are voting on it. And I think Newton voted or are voting on it soon. You know, to be honest, as a elected official, like, it's weird for me to think that, hey, we took the lead on this, but it shouldn't be weird for Wichita, right? Like, Wichita should be that regional leader. We are the largest city in Kansas, and we should be leading the way when it comes to economic growth and wearing a mask and ensuring we avoid a shutdown as part of securing our economic future in the next few months. So I'll tell you, I'm relieved that cities are stepping up, utilizing home rule. This opinion that we can do this has been affirmed by the Attorney General, and I think that folks now see that, hey, we can do this, and they're willing to step up and allow their cities to be protected if they're experiencing a spike in coronavirus like Wichita is. And in doing so, hopefully we can have a healthier Kansas. I think that we just saw the Director of Health at the state level said that Wichita is now on a quarantine list, where if you are, Kansas, the state, where we were doing some of the best in the country, and now we are actually, some states, if you travel from Kansas, they're asking you to self-quarantine. So we want to get back to where we were before and slow the spread of coronavirus, and cities are on the front lines helping out with that. My understanding, and the question was about the the county commission yesterday. Dr. Menz came out with an order to implement the mask mandate, as well as, I believe, limiting public gatherings to 45 or under. And the Board of Health / the county commission, because they're the same folks, they have the chance not to vote that in, but to override Dr. Menz's order. So there's still a chance that will be overridden. Not sure if it will be, but I'll tell you that it is not in conflict with our order, which means that right now we will abide by the 45 person limit that's now going in place countywide, I think on the 9th. But as far as mask order goes, our mask order, I think it's the 9th, I'm not sure when it is, but our mask order actually will stay in place throughout that time as well. I believe theirs actually ends August 9th. Ours expires on August 11th, in which city leaders will come together, reevaluate where we're at, and hopefully take the advice of medical experts to ensure that we're putting Wichitans first and our kids can go to school in the fall. Other questions? Yes. Thanks for coming, by the way. Like, normally these, I don't get so many questions, so.
I'm here. I wanted to know one more question regarding the mask hotline and email address. Can you tell us how many folks have been submitting? We will be responding to these. I know that it's a voice message right now.
Right.
So can you talk about the demand for this?
Well, we got mixed numbers because according to one of our staffers, some people have signed up that email on funny sites. So I think we're getting some emails that actually aren't about the mask ordinance. But in addition to that, our job is to enforce this. We are looking, I believe, more so to, let's say, businesses who might be confused where because it's a very confusing situation where you had on one day, the governor says everyone has to do this. On another day, the county says you don't really have to do this. And then on Friday, the city came out and said, hey, we're going to mandate that everyone does this. So there is some confusion out there depending on what day I think someone might have got the news. So the hotline is open. We are going to enforce, as mentioned, utilizing education first, kind of clearing up, I think, some of that confusion, and ensuring that this does take place and does so with the enforcement mechanism. Now, the email, like I said, we have been getting good emails. I've actually been getting a lot of social media posts. By the way, please email or call the number. Please don't just message me on Facebook. I don't get all my notifications because I get a lot of notifications, so I might miss it. But we want folks to be able to do their part in ensuring that we're all coming together, facing this coronavirus head on as a community so we can defeat it and we can get our kids back into the schools, so we can get our economy back up to where it needs to go, and so that we can make sure that our vulnerable population doesn't have to fight for their lives by catching this if we can avoid it. So I don't have it much more than that. The numbers, I don't have numbers on it. I just know that we got a lot of emails, and some of them are, like I said, signed up for kind of funny sites. Some of them are real. We do know it's being utilized quite a bit. I'm just not sure the numbers, and it's very important, though, that people still use it.
Do you know what the main concern is by people who are actual real people calling in?
So I'm not sure they're calling in because I'm not the one answering those calls, but I will tell you with the feedback I'm getting, some of the concern is a misunderstanding of what masks do. A lot of some of this misinformation out there, and some of it's legitimate, but now it's misinformation. Where early on in this, the medical science said, hey, we're not sure if masks actually help. And now the new science, because we have a completely new virus, says masks do help. And we've been shown that they do help. So a lot of it's that misinformation. And then we also have the other misinformation that masks only protect the wearer. That, hey, I should have the choice on if I get sick or not. Which, the reality is masks protect the cashier who's helping you check out at Dillon's, right? Like, you might have the right to put yourself at risk if you want to. You really don't have the right to go infect the cashier at Dillon's when you're buying groceries. So masks aren't just for ourselves, but more so it's to protect those people we're interacting with. So some of that information has been, I think, with people calling and asking about what is the purpose of this, a lot of it has been kind of that misinformation where they're not sure what the newest science is on a mask, or they assume masks are just to protect yourself, but it's actually to protect our neighbors and those who we contact every day. Other questions? So I can't read you guys' faces, so it's tougher. All right, see none. I want to just thank everyone for being here. We've been doing a lot of really good stuff here at Wichita, so reach out if you got any questions anytime. Reach out to Megan. Most of you have my cell number. Reach out to me. Thank you all for being here. It's a beautiful day, and stay safe.